Hi, my name is Cody Kelly and I'm here today to talk you guys through the Gillette The Best Men Can Be ad campaign presented by the brand in 2019. Today I will talk you through the advert as well as relevant themes coupled with marketing text. Let's go. So, what we're going to talk through today is the introduction, being the breakdown of the ad and the media's perception of it. Here then we will follow on to woke marketing and talk about the difference between woke advertising and woke washing. From here, we will discuss three themes. These themes are Be a Man, Gender and Culture, and CSR activities. We will then conclude with a summary. I will now start with discussing the breakdown of the advertisement. As you can see from the short clip on the left-hand side, we are looking at the opening of the advertisement, which shows men looking at themselves within the mirror. Following on from the GIF in the previous slide, we are posed with the question, are we too content with the brand's content? In looking at the Gillette ad, we can break this down in four different angles. First, the imagery posed at the start of the ad are synonymous with the traditional advertising produced by this brand. These ads show men looking at themselves in the mirror while shaving. However, following on from this image, the symbolic slogan, "The best a man can get" jingle is played. This slogan is then overshadowed by my next point. The imagery shown is synonymous with the Me Too movement of men taking a step too far with women, and a snippet of Terry Crews telling men that they need to step up and take action against the predatory behavior of men sparked by the Harvey Weinstein case. With this movement being mentioned, it brings up the idea of toxic masculinity. This area is shown throughout the whole video through imagery of bullying, both in person and online, sexual harassment, inappropriate behavior through the taping of a TV show, mansplaining, and my favorite, catcalling. All of these actions are synonymous with this type of masculinity. At one stage, it was a societal norm to be derogatory to women and belittle one another. This ad poses a question to the viewers in what they can do to change. This, coupled with the actions that they are taking in form of their CSR activities and the rebranding of their infamous tagline. However, I'll get into that in more detail later. With looking at this advert and its breakdown, we cannot forget the backlash that it received online. This feedback was both positive and negative. The negative, however, outweighed the positive. The video received the most dislikes on a video within its first 48 hours. Kaplan et al. Devised that viral marketing proposes messages are rapidly spread through virtual word of mouth. There are people who had opinions both positive and negative online. There are people who praise Gillette for taking a stance on atypical male behaviours, the feminist attributes of the Me Too movement, and tackling an issue that was relevant in the media and what Gillette's stance on this was. The negative, however, tried to say that Gillette were belittling men for being themselves and how they should act around each other as well as females. There were people that advised that it portrayed men, all men, as predatory monsters when this wasn't the case. We will now look at the Gillette ad in terms of whether it falls under woke advertising or woke washing. The term woke is known amongst Gen X as being aware of certain social or political issues. These brands are not aimed at promoting products. However, they are addressing social issues. The internet has coined this term as woke advertising. Brands nowadays are trying to become more aware of social issues and relate them to their own brand in order to stay relevant. However, is this something that brands are doing in order to generate brand awareness? Fragmenting this brand awareness, meaning to stimulate their own culture in relation to social issues. It offers brands a chance to challenge their own consumers around being aware of social issues. However, brands can get this wrong sometimes. This is known as woke washing. Woke washing is when companies cynically prey on customers' social awareness. There seems to be a trend from brands taking a stance on tackling social issues. However, they are getting this very wrong. We'll take the Pepsi Kendall Jenner ad as an example. This ad is centered around the Black Lives Matter protests in the States. Kendall Jenner is shown to diffuse the unrest in handing the police officer a can of Pepsi. This advert is known as being socially ignorant to a larger cause. These types of adverts create a negative buzz around the brand after the ad is released. A trend of boycotting brands has become the social norm online. This in turn infects a brand's equity, which can either positively or negatively affect sales and customer retention. Let's look at woke advertising versus woke washing in terms of Gillette through these three themes. Where do I think they stand? So in these themes, I am going to explore the theme of being a man, gender and culture, and CSR activities. This advert shows a row of men in front of barbecue saying boys will be boys. This shows a typical stance that we take a generalist view of how boys interact and how we see men acting around one another within the garden. This is an example of belonging to an aspirational group, meaning that men, when they're together, hanging out in the summertime, stand around and talking about manly topics such as sports around a barbecue. However, this ad instigated a debate of how we want our next generation of boys to be. We want the next generation of boys to become more aware of each other and what's going on around them. Watts brought the idea of network models of influence where people are influenced by the masses, spreading awareness around a topical subject, in this case, masculinity. In Gillette's case, they tackled stereotypical masculinity and other topics, as previously discussed, such as the Me Too movement. However, we live in a society today where both males and females are more woke or aware of how to respect and treat one another. This is due to the media's portrayal of issues that would have never been spoken about 20 years ago, like sexual assault and mansplaining. If you look at TV shows from the early 90s and even into the early 2000s to today, the way in which males and females interact is completely different. I will now move on to talk about how this ad touches on gender and culture. This quote by Bernice King, the granddaughter of Martin Luther King, touches on the fact that this ad isn't purely about masculinity, it is pro-humanity. She goes on to say that it demonstrates that character can step up to change to conditions. What I think is meant by this is both males and females have the willingness to adapt to certain cultural and societal shifts depending on what's going on in the media. In engaging with the Me Too movement, the company's new advertising campaign plays on its 30-year tagline, the best a man can get, and replacing it with the best men can be. Gender nowadays is more fluid, and there's a shift in brands and becoming more gender neutral. The idea of gender is changing, and brands need to change with it in order to stay relevant. Today, consumers want brands to be more aware of social issues, especially around gender. What is a stereotypical man these days? This is the question that is sparked by this advertisement. However, sales and brand clarity become the issue after the release of this advert, like what was explained in the last theme. This advert created a lot of buzz online and sparked a debate on whether these portrayed men in a negative view. If we take, for instance, the female-driven campaign known as the Dove Real Beauty campaign, this campaign from Dove sparked a lot of praise online for tackling the issue of body positivity and bringing awareness to it. While creating a buzz is crucial, perhaps brands are becoming a little more daring in their ads because social media provides them with immediate feedback that traditional advertising does not. This allows the brand to expand their reach far beyond traditional media outlets. I will now move on to talk about our last theme of CSR activities. This advert poses the question to its viewer of what has a shaving company got to do with masculinity. Traditionally, Gillette adverts were synonymous with sports stars and celebs such as Tiger Woods, David Beckham, and more recently Idris Elba, like what is seen in this advertisement. These ads showcase these celebs shaving in a bathroom, in a mirror, and portraying video reels of their successes and how potentially Gillette will help in their journey going forward. Anderson and Nielsen advise that we live in an experience economy where people are becoming more aware about what brands are made up of. Ethical issues such as child labour as well as cheap labour are issues that people are predominantly looking at. What are their products made up of? Brands nowadays have to be more in line with the times. If we look at another video that was released around after this one from Gillette, it talked about and showed Samson, a transgender man, and his first shaving experience. This advert promoted a lot of emotions, thus bringing the idea of emotional marketing. It resonated with the viewer and allowed the viewer to empathize with Samson within his first experience. It showed Samson and his dad showing him how to shave using the northeast-southwest technique. At the end of the advert, it promotes people to go to thebestamancanbe.org, where they can see what they were doing about this campaign. It shows stories of men who have done better in their communities through social projects, which will be shown within the next slide. The razor and grooming brand also says it's donating $1 million annually for the next 3 years to non-profit organizations who follow in these values. If this were something that they promoted more actively on their social media platforms, would it have softened the blow on this campaign as people resonate with people? This means that other people's stories resonate with people a lot more than the generalistic overview of masculinity. This is a snapshot from the bestmancanbe.org's website. It shows 7 men and their stories and how they have used Gillette and Gillette products and the funding provided by Gillette to support in their activities. We can see that there are men who help and support groups who have people dealing with abuse, suicide and addiction, people who have been in prison and want to be put back into society, veterans and counsellors. If this was more promoted within the advertisement, do I think that people's perception of this advert would have been changed? The answer is yes. From this, I believe that woke advertising is the best fit for this advertisement. It tackles social issues that people are afraid to talk about in terms of challenging gender as well as masculinity. The idea, as I said earlier on, what is a stereotypical man? 50 years ago, the answer would have been very different to today, because the answer today is people are more aware of social issues that impact not only them, but the people around them. In conclusion, brands are now moving away from traditional marketing techniques. There has been a shift in the way that Gillette have advertised their products. They have changed their iconic tagline to make their consumers think that this is the best they can be, and challenge that idea. The symbolism associated with their traditional advertising of men looking at themselves in the mirror is making the viewer look at themselves and see if they can better themselves in any way. Tim Kay discusses the ideas that social media plays a role in everyday life. It should be remembered that social media and digital technologies will change and adapt rapidly. In turn, brands must adapt to this. Woke marketing has taken the marketing space by storm. Today, brands are trying to tackle social issues such as bullying, sexual harassment, and mental health in order to promote their brands. Is this the way of future advertising? There are examples of how this can be done positively and negatively, and how it impacts a brand. How has Gillette done this by challenging masculinity in the way it is portrayed in the media? They are telling men that they need to step up and do what is right. However, people's perception of right is different, thus promoting the question, is this how we want our future to be? Thank you for taking the time to watch my video, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.